I can't even put sentences together right now because I'm so frustrated with this industry, this, this medium that I used to love. And it's just been taken over, as Doc says, by cultural locusts. And it's been hollowed out. I can't support it anymore. The only thing that I can support is a couple of independent books from independent companies, a couple independent creators, and turn all my comic buying money into supporting crowdfunding, because at least the people there aren't complete degenerate scumbags.
We had a very tragic event happen this week. Obviously, there was the assassination attempt on President Trump's life. I wouldn't say most comic book pros were excited about this or had something funny to say about it, but enough of them did that have high-profile positions or positions of power that it really does paint a very negative light on the comic industry itself.
It really shows you how prevalent mental illness is throughout the comic book industry, and how nobody does anything about it, when it's coming from one side of the political spectrum.
Yeah, so it was very, very disappointing. I guess we'll run down the thing and kind of talk about who was saying what. And obviously, this isn't in full encapsulation of everything. These are just the most important people that were saying the worst things. First up, obviously, we got to do DC Comics' Absolute Power showrunner, Mark Waid, posting on Blue Sky, "If you're just tuning in, some fucking idiot with shitty eyesight just clinched the election for Trump. Fuck." Later deleted the post stating, "Because right-wing lunatics and Comicsgate incels have made a campaign today of sickly twisting my condolences about yesterday's tragedy into claims that I cheer political violence, I have deleted my post. I will not give them any fuel to spread their disgusting lies." I don't understand how, in any way, shape, or form, what Mark Waid put up could it have ever been considered condolences.
No, it wasn't condolences. The only one who's spreading disgusting lies is Mark Waid when he says that he put up condolences, because he absolutely did not. And we know from, Waid's history, we know from Waid's personality that he absolutely does love violence. He loves to punch holes in walls. He loves to break all his little action figures when he doesn't get his way. We've heard, stories about him lying on the floor, crying his eyes out, banging his phone on the floor like a lunatic. Mark Waid is a person who does not have any control over his emotions. He doesn't have any control over his outbursts on social media. And that's why he frequently has to go back and delete his posts, because when he gets pushback, he's shocked because he lives in his own little echo chamber. And so when he gets pushback, he has to go and he has to delete it. But then he also has to still paint himself as the hero of his own story and say why it was really justified that he did this. And it's really because of, these other people that he had to take down his perfectly reasonable post where he said that the guy had shitty eyesight, clearly lamenting the fact that the sniper
missed
the target. Mm-hmm.
But he's the victim.
Yeah, well, he's always the victim. He's the hero, Wes. He's the hero of his own story. He always will be.
And obviously, it's not his first time being upset with Trump. We know when he was writing for Marvel Comics, he had the King Baby story where he had MODOK Trump and all this stuff. And it's clear that Trump has been on this guy's mind. But I still don't understand, even if you don't like the guy, whatever, you don't have to like everybody. Someone tried to shoot him in the head and barely missed. You can't even have a little bit of decency in you to hold it back for one day, 24, 48 hours, and actually treat him like a human being?
No, because Mark Waid is King Baby. That story was the biggest amount of projection I have ever seen. And it's why, you remember there was a time where I would say I think that people should be judged on kind of the best things that they've done. And, I had a couple of Mark Waid stories that, where I said he actually did some decent things here. And so I always try to remember that when he says something unhinged or he does something stupid. All of that is gone. All of that is gone. The amount of times that this guy has the two choices between him, doing something good and doing something evil, he chooses evil. Remember, this is a man who sent black roses to Mark Alessi when his company was going out of business and said, "What would your dead wife think of you now?" Essentially, what would your wife think of you now? He did that because he had a personal problem with Mark Alessi. What a piece of shit you have to be. You have to have dog shit in your soul to do something like that. Remember that, Mark Waid, brave champion of people of color. Remember the reports that we got from, his business partner, who was a woman of color, about how when he screwed her out of the comic book store, how he basically she was told, well, he'll just tie you up in court forever and run you out of money. So there's nothing you can do. This is a guy who, a woman he was in a relationship with, and her daughter, he apparently, allegedly, he moved in the middle of the day while she was at work, had a moving truck come and got all of his stuff out because he was too terrified to confront her like a man and say, "I'm leaving." And then apparently had the audacity to go back and ask for her to send him some of his stuff that he forgot weeks later. I mean, all these stories are out there. So we have a really clear picture of Mark Waid's overall character. And this is not surprising. The initial post cheering political violence, which is exactly what he did, despite his protestations to the contrary.
Well, I think he was lamenting that it wasn't violent enough.
Mm-hmm. That, hey, if you're going to take a shot, you better hit it. You better hit it, because now you've actually clinched the election for this guy when what you should have done was murder him, is what Mark Waid is saying.
Yeah, that's what he wanted. He's always like the right-wing lunatics, Comicsgate incels. Remember, this is also the guy that when Richard Meyer had Diversity in Comics channel up, went out there and funded his own comic book, had a publishing deal, verbally agreed to with was it Antarctic Press or whatever, used his influence and his positional authority within the comic book industry to get that deal basically killed.
A guy who never helped out Antarctic Press, but all of a sudden was very concerned about their well-being and needed to concern troll them and tell them, like, I don't know if you want to do business with this guy. And, I suspect, I don't know for a fact, but I suspect that as part of the settlement with Mark Waid, Mark Waid is not allowed to talk about Richard Meyer anymore, and Richard Meyer is not allowed to talk about Mark Waid. But you and I are under no such legal obligation. So we will sit here and we will talk about his poor behavior all day. And let me just say this. This was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. I was already not supporting any book that Mark Waid did. You and I both made that decision when he said he would rather see the comics industry burn to the ground. He would rather see all these people lose their jobs. He would rather see an American institution go away than have to work with anybody he deemed alt-right, which, of course, is anybody to the right of Stalin, according to Mark Waid's belief system. They would be alt-right. So you and I had already said, we're not supporting Mark Waid anymore. We will not buy anything that he's attached to. And unfortunately, that's very sad because they keep pairing him with Dan Mora, who is a fantastic artist. And as far as I know, has never said anything that, should eliminate people's support for his work. But this has now gotten me to the point where I will not only not buy anything Mark Waid does, I will not buy anything from any company that employs him. So DC has lost me as a customer so long as Mark Waid is there. I will not buy a single project from them. I don't care who's working on it. Like, a line has to be drawn somewhere for everybody. Your mileage may vary, but that's where I'm at right now. I will not buy any more DC books so long as Mark Waid is employed there. And that's my choice, and I have the right to make it.
And they've made Mark Waid a big deal again. He was on that Superman Batman book, which has been marginally successful, and now he's the guy that's doing Absolute Power, the big summer event that's going to kick off DC All In the Absolute Universe and all that kind of stuff. And just today, before they leaked those images regarding All In and the Absolute Universe, shockingly, they had the press release that he's going to be doing a Batman and Robin Year One book with Chris Samney. Within 30 minutes, we get the leaked images of all this stuff for Absolute Power that people are going to be talking about, basically trying to bury the lead on that one, that he's getting another high-profile gig.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so DC will receive no more of my money. Also, Dark Horse will receive no more of my money. That decision was made when they decided to give a publishing deal to Alex DeCampi, who also had some very vile things to say about the assassination. Cheryl Lynn Eaton, working for Marvel. So basically, what I'm saying is the majority of the comic book industry has lost my money. I am out of the hobby. And even though I wasn't spending nearly as much as I have in the past, I was still spending a fair amount every week on comic books. No more.
Me personally, I saw calls like the comic industry needs to die. I don't believe that. I don't think a few bad eggs ruin the bunch or whatever, that kind of thing. But I will not support Mark Waid and continue to stay on that. And I feel like I was completely vindicated by his latest vile outbreak. But I understand why people are drawing a line in the sand. And whatever that line is, I understand why you're doing it, because everybody has that breaking point to where enough is enough. You got me to here. This is what I'm going to do. And I completely get it. I don't think the industry needs to die, but there are a lot of people in prominent power positions that need to go. Not only are we going to talk about Mark Waid, we got to talk about IDW senior editor Heather Antos, who posted a gif of Emperor Palpatine before the Imperial Senate with the text, "The attempt on my life has left me scarred and deformed," with a comment, "I'll just leave this here," obviously insinuating that the assassination attempt must have been a deep fake and all orchestrated and not real. The bullet hit him in the ear. You know what I'm saying? You don't stage stuff like that. They shot the dude in the face. Someone died in the crowd. 2 other people were hit. There were real consequences to this, and to try and insinuate that it was some type of fake out when Trump was clearly already leading all the polls leading up to this anyway is just ridiculous.
I mean, this is how deranged these people are. I mean, look, Heather Antos shows up at events thinking she's edgy with her little 666 Hail Satan shirt. Nothing that she says should ever be taken with any kind of seriousness. It should always be pointed at and laughed and mocked. She is literally one of the dumbest people in the industry. She's just out there trying to make herself relevant, and it's fine. You know what? Go out and do that. I already wasn't buying any of your shitty Star Trek books because they suck. But again, the fact that she's still working at IDW, now I'm not even going to buy your Turtles book. I'm out on that. And you desperately need people to buy your Turtles book. You desperately need it because you overpaid for it. It's the only thing keeping IDW afloat. But you know what? Keep betting on that pony. I'm sorry, not the pony. That's a full-blown Clydesdale now. Keep betting on that one, IDW. Good job. Good job.
Well, and the problem is she's not just like an editor. She's a senior editor. She's just like a notch below an executive at this point as somebody that's part of their leadership team there. And quite frankly, their Star Trek line does suck. I like Star Trek. I'm a huge DS9 fan. I'm watching a Discovery right now. I've seen Voyager or, The Next Generation, all that kind of stuff. I'm a huge comic book fan. I am the customer for your Star Trek line. I've jumped in on the first issue of 5 books and I've been turned off every single time. Not only is somehow like the spell check not working in that office, they can't keep any of the canon straight of the stuff that actually happened in the shows or in the movies.
You require an editor who actually knows the property. And that's what none of these companies really seem to have anymore. They've just got a bunch of bodies that fill seats because they don't pay enough to get people who are actually talented. That's how you end up with a Heather Antos as a senior editor.
Well, and that's the chance you take when you bring Mark Waid back and you put him on a big event book, or you go and you scrape Heather Antos off the heat from Valiant Comics who are going under due to her senior editorial experience there, and bring him on board. Guess what's happened since Heather Antos has arrived? They had to lay off like 50% of their editorial staff because guess what? The sales went down, except for TMNT, the last Ronin kind of stuff.
Yeah, and then you've got people jumping ship. You see people leaving. Of course, then they have to come out and they have to do their hostage video where they say like, "Oh no, working there was great. I just had this other great opportunity that I can't talk about." It's amazing. I'm so frustrated. Like I can't even put sentences together right now because I'm so frustrated with this industry, this medium that I used to love. And it's just been taken over, as Doc says, by cultural locusts. And it's been hollowed out. I can't support it anymore. The only thing that I can support is a couple of independent books from independent companies, a couple independent creators, and turn all my comic buying money into supporting crowdfunding because at least the people there aren't complete degenerate scumbags.
Thank goodness for Indiegogo and Kickstarter and Backer Kit and obviously back issues and stuff, to where if you finally have had enough, at least you can still enjoy comic books and be a part of the industry. And thank goodness for YouTube, so you can still be a part of the community. But I do think this stuff is going to turn a lot of people off because these aren't insignificant people in insignificant positions. These are people that have been given power within the industry. Next up, Cheryl Lynn Eaton, prominent writer on Marvel's Blood Hunt event, went after the murder victim, stating, well, I guess the family of the guy who died at the Trump rally can take solace in the fact he genuinely went out doing what he loved. Later stating, I mean, the man hated everyone like me and anyone like any of the people in my life, but it's still sad to see a life wasted. And he threw most of that life away before he died. How vile and disgusting on the part of Cheryl Lynn Eaton, who's writing the big Blood Hunt, Black Panther book and all this stuff. Her first real break in comic books, a complete no-name, goes out there to attack the dude that died protecting his family.
And what did he do for a living again? Remind me. He was a fire chief. He was a fire chief. So he started out as a firefighter. He started out putting out fires, saving people's lives. That's what he spent his life doing. And he died. She is right about one thing. He did die doing what he loved, which was protecting other people. What have you ever done, Cheryl Lynn Eaton? What have you ever done, even remotely, that would allow you to wipe the dust off of that guy's shoes? What have you done in life? Absolutely nothing. Nothing. You are a vile human being. What you said was vile. And the fact that you are still employed at Marvel, the fact that they're still going to publish that book, the fact that they didn't immediately fire you and cancel that book, that tells me everything I need to know about the morality of the people at Marvel Comics. And that is why I also will not be buying any Marvel Comics. Done. I'm finished with it.
And you could say, you know, that first statement, there's some truth to it. I genuinely think that if you gave that man the choice on how he was going to go out, saving his family would probably be the way that he chose it. But you could tell the way that she put it out there, it was meant mockingly.
It absolutely was.
Like there wasn't a genuine word in there, because I don't think she's a genuine human being. I don't think she's ever actually been around a hero. Anyone that's actually went out of their way to sacrifice for the greater good of everybody else out there. No soldiers or airmen or police officers or firefighters and stuff like that. I don't think these people can legitimately comprehend the type of person you have to be willing to go out there and put yourself in harm's way. And she thinks she's above him. He got what he deserved, right?
And this is why their stories suck. Because this industry, this genre, the superhero genre that was built upon heroism and sacrifice and stories of that, has been taken over by people who do not understand the nature of heroism. They do not possess it within their bodies. All that they do is churn with hatred for people all day long, and they put that into their books. And you're paying for it when you buy Marvel Comics. So you go and you buy that Black Panther Blood Hunt issue, you're paying for it. You're paying for this kind of hate.
Last up, we'll talk about Marvel X-Men writer Mark Russell. He chimed in on the political divide because liberals are the true victims in all of this. Political violence always benefits authoritarians because liberals will always condemn it, and authoritarians, regardless of whether they are the perpetrators or victims, will always use it to claim more power. The assertion being in there by the guy that I think that fancies himself as some type of political commentator is that authoritarians can't be liberals and liberals can't be authoritarians. I don't know about you, but I certainly witnessed an event within the last 3 years that I would say the most liberal governance out there, whether it be a country, a state, or a city, all went the entire authoritarian route on all of it.
I live in the most authoritarian state of all. Gavin Newsom thinks that he is an emperor. He thought, you know, as soon as he had like any kind of unchecked power, he instituted all sorts of draconian rules that we were all expected to live by. Some of us didn't. Some of us, you know, pushed back, and some of us refused to, to give into it. But he, of course, was exempt, showing up at the French Laundry, not wearing a mask, never having to do any of these things that he was forcing everybody else to do as he ran small businesses out. So yes, the only caveat I will possibly give Mark Russell is maybe he's saying true liberals like himself, but then it feels like he's pointing the finger at false liberals like Mark Waid, because Mark Waid is certain authoritarian. If Mark Waid could put people into camps, he absolutely would. I believe that.
We saw what happened in Australia, right? What happened during COVID?
They
started putting their own people in camps.
Mm-hmm. For a virus
Basically
that had a 99.9% survivability rate.
I guess liberals are the victims because Trump, in the face of an assassination attempt, stood up with his hand in the air and said, fight. Apparently, he was supposed to go out on a stretcher instead of going out on his own 2 feet and showing a little bit of a fucking modicum of actual backbone, like he was a real man.
Let's be honest. He was supposed to leave there in a body bag. That's what they all want. And even the ones who didn't come out and say it, but are coming out and like dancing around it a little bit, they would have loved that. Like I said, I do not care for Gavin Newsom one bit. I think that he is a serpent in a skin suit, but I have never once called for him to be assassinated. I have never once asked for, him to be assaulted. I have never asked for his family to be hurt. All of these things that these liberals who, never cheer violence are constantly out there posting on social media. And it's a big reason why I can't be a part of the Democrat Party. It's a big reason why, I've always kind of felt that I was a moderate, and I've watched the left go so far away from me that now I don't know what I am. I'm politically homeless.
I know exactly how you feel. And last week, right here on the Geek Fix, we were talking about that Josh Dysart got drunk and just started spitting out. Is it time for some political violence?
He made sure to caveat it as I'm not saying we should. I'm just exploring the idea. Yeah. You were just exploring the idea by putting it out there. Sure.
Beyond ridiculous stuff here, I will give at least kudos out to Gail Simone, who showed a modicum of fucking class in the entire thing and acted like she could be capable of human emotion and empathy.
It's sad when the bare minimum of human decency makes you go, oh, I guess that's a really good person. It's a shame that like people have gotten so horrible that's the way that we feel, is we have to actually just sheer normalcy and regular morality. But here we are.
Yeah, it's wild times. I want to say thank you very much to Aaron for joining me here today, talking about a very tough subject and the weird shenanigans going on around comic books with the pros responding to the assassination attempt on President Trump, which I thought was absolutely disgusting. But we do have another 2 hours to go or more on the Geek Fix podcast, exclusive to Think Critical Patreon. There's a link in the video description if you would like to support us there.